The blind eye. When the second term resumed after the Christmas break of 1996, I went back to the boarding school, practically working on the cloud. My father came home from his base in Germany over the Christmas period and brought us a lot of goodies. One of the goodies was a pair of loafers, with which I rocked the town throughout the Christmas season. I was of two minds as to whether I should take it to school, but the problem with leaving things at home is this: you preserve them from getting spoiled or stolen, only to discover that you have outgrown them. When I got to school, the shoe got a lot of attention. Loafers, bikers, Sanchez and Chelsea boots were the must-have shoes of those days. Any clean jeans and t-shirt would do, but your shoes determine how far you will go in the appraisal of your friends socially. I placed this shoe on my bunk as I began to arrange my locker. Our housemaster's oldest son walked into the room to greet me. He had just gained admission into the University of Ilori at the time. A few minutes after he left, I stood up to put my loafers in the locker and discovered, voila, it had disappeared. What? It was the first day of resumption. I was the only senior to have arrived. My younger brother and some other junior students had arrived too, but none of them was old enough to wear the shoe or had the guts to come into a senior's room to steal the shoe. None of them came into the room. I knew who the thief was. I went to the housemaster's house and asked for this guy. He was not in. I didn't want to accuse him in his absence, so I waited. When I went back later in the evening, his mother said he had left for school. I nodded my head and smiled. Those days, I was not the type that would take that lying role. I cannot describe how painful it felt to have been robbed in broad daylight and to also be unable to accuse the thief and get justice. Any other student would pick his wound and forget about it. That was not wired that way. I felt he had made a fool of me. When my roommates arrived, I told them what had happened. None of them believed me. I had a reputation for dishonesty and being light-fingered. They would believe it if I told them I stole the loafers. They would believe it if I told them I stole the loafers. Then believe me that my loafers were stolen. It seems a thief had no right to justice as long as he has a long rap sheet of misdeeds. Whatever calamity befell him would be well deserved. I summoned the courage to speak with the housemaster on the theft. He got angry that I accused his son of stealing my loafers. He told me I didn't bring any loafers to school, and if I did, I had gone to sell it while accusing his son of the theft, just so I can give my parents a good excuse when they ask me to give an account for the loafers. It is pretty difficult not to be believed when you're robbed or raped or cheated because you deserved it. One of my friends even said, "You've done all sorts to others. You need to feel how they felt when you stole their things." I get it. I was no saint. I deserved to be robbed. It was karma. He didn't even deserve a sorry. I waited for the term to end. We went on holidays and I resumed for the third term on the first day of resumption as usual. Luckily, the thief was around. This time, I bought a pair of Sanchez boots from a friend and I made sure I polished it very well. I placed it on my bed as usual. I pretended I was not paying attention. He came into the room just like he did the first time. I waited. He greeted me. I did some small talk. I answered half-heartedly. He left. I waited for 10 minutes until he walked into his father's apartment. As expected, the Sanchez boots was gone. I sneaked out of my room, walked around the hostel to the housemaster's house, and pulled the housemaster's bedroom window from the outside. I set the trap as soon as I got to school. The hole the window latch was supposed to slot into had been blocked with candle wax. The window gave way. I climbed into the housemaster's room through the window and saw the son putting my Sanchez boots and the stolen loafers of the previous term into his travel bag. He also had his provisions, clothes, some money, and other things in the same bag. He zipped the bag and walked out through the back door. As soon as he was gone, I took his travel bag and exited the same way I got in. I put the bag under my bunk and locked the room. 2 hours later, the housemaster arrived home to take his son to the motor park where he would take a bus to Ilorin. The poor boy couldn't find his travel bag. They searched for it everywhere. Nobody could even imagine it was in the male hostel. He couldn't go to school that day. My roommates started arriving. I didn't tell anybody what had happened in their absence. Monday came. I dressed for school wearing my Sanchez boots. When I walked into the dining for breakfast, the housemaster's son saw me. I had my breakfast and went off to class. The next day, I wore my loafers to the dining for breakfast. He saw me again. It convinced him beyond any reasonable doubt that I had his travel bag, but there was nothing he could do about it. If he told anyone, he would have to admit that he stole my things too. Meanwhile, his father was giving him hell every day over the missing bag. He came to see me in the school area on the third day. He came with 3 friends. He said I should return his bag or they'll beat me up. I said, okay. Later that evening, during the evening devotion, I walked up to the housemaster and told him everything. I told him his son was a thief and had now resorted to intimidation to cover his crime. I told him I have my own gang. Will burn his hostel down if he does not address the issue. I presented my evidence. In the son's travel bag, I found the clothes of other students of the boarding house. The housemaster's holy boy was not so holy. The housemaster said he would arrest me for coming into their house to steal the son's bag. I told him to go ahead. Eventually, he capitulated. He told me to bring the bag to the dining, and his son apologized to all the students. Those whose properties had been stolen got their properties back. It was a walk of shame, but it was a walk that was necessary. His son returned to school that same week. Hypocrisy is a norm in human society, and we are all guilty of it. Did you notice how the news of a COVID-19 vaccine was released in the USA soon after the election, but not before? People were dying, but it didn't matter. Announcing it before will make it seem like Trump got a win, and nobody wanted to give a gorilla the pleasure reserved for human beings. So they carried COVID-19 towards the election and announced the vaccine after their preferred candidate won. It didn't matter that people were dying all over. When we dislike people, we all have the tendency to not see when they are wronged or to judge whatever calamity they are facing as deserved. The gospel does not wear a tinted lens. It made equals of all men in Christ Jesus. Believers have no right to hate or judge anyone in Christ. Such is as eternal, as saved as we all are. P.S. I understand perfectly if some people see others as undeserving and proud and all. The other brother to a prodigal son was exactly that way. I have come to know the gospel by the Spirit of Jesus. I am better than no one as long as such is in Christ. Thank you.